Hello, everybody. Now, this song that I'm doing to start the show today wasn't exactly my choice, but that's okay. I just want to say, if I'm giving anyone any flashbacks to their high school drama club days, because I know you guys were all drama nerds like us, well, I'm sorry. But it is a pretty good song after all. Beauty school dropout, no graduation day for you. Beauty school dropout, you miss your midterms and flunk shampoo. While at least you could have taken time to wash and clean your clothes up after spending all that dough to have the doctor fix your nose up. Baby, get moving. Why keep your feeble hopes alive? What are you proving? You've got the dream, but not the drive. If you go for your diploma, you could join the steno pool, turning your teasing comb and go back to high school. Baby, don't sweat it. You're not cut out to hold a job. Better forget it. Who wants their hair done by a slob? Now your bangs are curled, your lashes whirled, but still the world is cruel. Wipe off that angel face and go back to high school. Wipe off that angel face and go back to high school. And here to take all of us to school is your host, Adam Bailey.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Is a Talk Show. These past 2 weeks have brought a lot of uncomfortable and horrific information to light. And surprisingly, I am not talking about the second impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump and its foregone conclusion, nor am I talking about Senator Ted Cruz's dereliction of duty. I mean, sure, he fled his constituency in Texas seeking the warmth of Cancun while the people he was supposed to be supporting literally froze to death. But what more do you expect from the son of the Zodiac killer? No, I am talking instead about the artists who we've all come to know and love throughout our lifetimes, proving to be problematic. Let's take it to the slideshow. We're starting today with Joss Whedon, the creator and director and writer of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who was once hailed as this great male feminist, and it turns out that he wasn't very feminist at all. In fact, his treatment of women on the set of Buffy the Vampire Slayer was so horrible that the youngest female cast member was never allowed to be left alone in a room with him. And speaking of directors treating their female cast members horribly, Shelley Duvall did an interview this past week reminding us all that Stanley Kubrick treated her like a piece of shit to create great art with his movie, The Shining. Speaking of pieces of shit, Marilyn Manson recently was exposed as a sex predator. And before you look at that satanic makeup and say, I told you so, let's not forget that this week, Mickey Mouse Club member Justin Timberlake finally, after a decade or more, apologized for his treatment of Britney Spears and Janet Jackson. Speaking of blasts from the past, well, HBO is dropping a documentary about Woody Allen, so whoop, there he is. And also this lady. She is Anne Robinson, and is the original host of Weakest Link. Now, her job, of course, was insulting people to their face, telling them that they were the weakest link. But she also leaned heavily on homophobic and fatphobic slurs, making most people wanting to say to her now, goodbye. And with a week like this in the news, I am now obligated to do something that the internet is in desperate need of. Give a middle-aged white dude's response to cancel culture and problematic art with our new segment that I'm proud to introduce called Can I Still Like Things? Well, what do you like? Let's find out. First off, hashtag canceled is hashtag canceled. You see, it's really hard to talk about problematic art and what we should do with it without talking about the concept of canceling and cancel culture. And unfortunately, the alt-right has done this thing that they are wont to do, which is to take a topic like this and turn it into a toxic, time waste, bad faith argument that nobody wants to delve into. And the left, to close off these arguments, usually come up with some technical loophole that means that they can never be brought up. And for cancel culture, the one that seems to be popular is that it doesn't exist because no one can ever get truly canceled. They will always have some fan base, some ability to bounce back, some existence in our mainstream culture. And so I guess the only person who can cancel you is Thanos? And as a queer, I find this kind of problematic. Cancel culture is actually really important to gay rights history and can speak to one of the big third rails that the alt-right has tried to set up for us, canceling something by association to someone else's behavior. And, you know, back in the 70s, gay people went so far that they canceled orange juice. You see, back in 1977, there was this bigot named Anita Bryant, and she was the face of Florida orange juice. And she wasn't just the face of that, she was also the face of this horrific campaign called Save the Children. You see, in the 1970s, gay people were actually starting to get legal rights written down on the books. And she did not like this because that meant that we could adopt and teach classes and keep our own kids. And then, won't somebody please think of the children? And she was surprisingly effective. In fact, she got gay rights laws repealed in the 1970s. And gay people couldn't attack her directly. We didn't have that power, but we did have the power to say, Anita Bryant sucks oranges. And gay people stopped drinking orange juice of any type, not in a mimosa, not in a wall banger, not in a screwdriver, not at breakfast, no thank you, no. And this turned out to be an important part of our history because it showed that we were more organized than people had thought before and that we had more economic clout than people thought that we had before. In fact, some people have compared our reaction to Anita Bryant and our boycott of orange juice as being as significant as the Stonewall riots themselves. And it worked. We actually did get Anita Bryant fired from the orange juice campaign, and we were able to start drinking mimosas that didn't have grapefruit juice in them once again. And that is an important thing that we were able to do by canceling. And it's not just the left that cancels things. The right canceled the Dixie Chicks for not being so full-throatedly behind the concept of George W. Bush back in the 2000s, getting them banned from all sorts of radio stations. They recently canceled Keurig coffee machines for I don't know what reason anymore, literally going as far as setting them all on fire. Canceling has been used by people of all political stripes throughout all times in history. It's gone by names such as boycotting. It's also been called persona non grata. It's been called uninviting. It's been called blackballing, and it has existed at least as long as the citizens of Athens decided to hand Socrates himself a glass of hemlock for asking so many goddamn fucking questions. I mean, you want to talk about the marketplace of ideas? That starts with this guy. When he would walk around the marketplace asking you endless questions like a reply guy on Facebook, but in real life near the wine and the bread aisle. Okay, so sure, it was probably problematic killing Socrates. But sometimes canceling does become problematic, especially when people on the same team turn against each other. Back in 2019, YouTube philosopher and trans activist Natalie Wynn had a horrific canceling experience with a Twitter mob going after her for what can be seen by most people as honest gaffes. And she probably shouldn't have suffered as much as she did for them. But sometimes we turn on ourselves because we can't actually cancel the people we most want to. People like Rush Limbaugh, the human piece of garbage who called women feminazis, who made fun of Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's disease, who literally played bells and whistles and cheers when gay people died of AIDS. And we couldn't get to him. He was safely nestled in conservative radio land on a conservative radio station with conservative sponsors. And the only thing that could cancel him would have been a Thanos snap. Short of that, lung cancer. So rest in hell, Rush Limbaugh. But back to the original question of, can I still like things? Well, what do you like? Let's find out. As you can see with canceling, it's a case-by-case scenario. But the general rule would be that canceling is a solidarity action, and it takes a consensus and a will of a group for it to have any real impact or effect. And so if you want to be an ally to a certain group of people, you may end up having to give up stuff that you like. Then again, there are always exceptions to things, and you need to be cognizant of that too. Nobody likes the vegans that walk into a fancy date night restaurant, disrupting the dates of people who have saved months to have a night out away from the kids. And let's face it, when your friend shows you a picture of her baby dressed up as Harry Potter, it's not your job to lecture her on J.K. Rowling. It's your job to say, look at that baby. That's a really cute baby. That's a cute fucking baby. And now, so she can take a look at this cute baby, let's bring Kristin Mueller-Heaslip back. Kristin.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I guess this is why you asked me to sing a song from Greece, so you could talk about cancel culture.
Well, problematic art was my original impetus, but over the past week, more and more articles about cancel culture came up, and I got more and more frustrated by it always being written as this negative thing, like just giving that concept to the conservatives and then saying it doesn't exist on top of it, when it can be kind of powerful to say no to something. I mean, we all like problematic art. Grease is one of those things. People know it's bad, and yet they still can't help but sing the songs. What's something problematic that you like, Kristin?
Okay, because all the things I like are weird. I don't know. I really like minimalist composer Steve Reich has been canceled recently. I think he's dead, but he's been rightly criticized for lots of things, but I still think his music is really good. What's else? Something else problematic that I like? Oh, I mean, I love like old mysteries and things like that are generally super racist, and many things that are very problematic about them, but I still read them. My kids love, do you know the Rex Murphy Dr. Dolittle from the 1960s? Don't watch it, people. It's 3 hours long. It actually has some, you know what? I am going to do one of the songs from that movie because they're great songs. Not today.
I definitely like Joss Whedon is one of those things. My cat named Spike and Angel, so that like, do I need to rename the cats now?
No, you don't need to rename your cats. No, but I didn't finish about Dr. Dolittle. The movie is not really problematic, except in like everything from the 60s is somewhat problematic. But I was like, okay, well, let's listen to the audiobook of the original Dr. Dolittle. Oh my God, don't do that. It is really so racist. You just can't. Like, it's not racist in the way of like, oh, there's some language that's not used anymore. They're super, super, super racist as this beloved franchise and property that has spawned so many things, so many versions of it. That is why there is no faithful rendition of this book, because it's incredibly racist. Sorry for all the Dr. Dolittle fans out there.
There's two. There's no.
There's two, and they're in my living room right now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think the most problematic thing I like is the dance numbers that the Filipino prisoners got made to do back in the early 2010s. Do you remember those? They would do Thriller, or they would do another dance. And someone exposed how problematic that actually was because of how those prisoners are treated. And it's really viral. And I was like, oh, but it's still so, look how good that dancing is. And I was like, it's probably bad. You know, like those wildlife photography things that are like, oh, it's a frog giving a finger. And then people are like, actually, those animals are being manipulated with like wires and stuff like that. Like, if you ever see those things, it's like, those are really problematic. Yeah, don't like those either, guys. Don't read the original Dr. Dolittle, and don't click like on those shady wildlife photography accounts. That's the thing. So like this topic, it's one of those things where there's so much with each specific case, it's hard to get into that. And then with the canceling thing, I was like, this is something solid that we can talk about why cancel culture is effective, as opposed to just bemoaning that it's a net negative. And I just wanted to get away from that concept. But I mean, that stuff's all in the past. I hear that this week that you wanted to take over our reoccurring segment, Adam and Kristin predict the future, except we needed to add an S to that because you wanted to predict the futures, as in the stock market.
Yeah, sure. I'll predict the stock market. Don't buy GameStop. It's gone down. My prediction for the stock market is that it will continue to be a scam, and we should all find a different basis for our culture and society.
But didn't you have an update on the GameStop people for us?
Yes, I do have a small update on that. Yeah, a lot of them lost money. This dude here, I think that was the dude, he borrowed $50,000 to invest in GameStop and has lost it all, predictably. And is facing some financial hardship because of that. I'm sure some people made money on it somehow, because always someone does. But yeah, take this as a cautionary tale. Keep your money in a mattress. It's the only way.
That's how you grow your money.
That's how you grow your money.
In the I know we have some things that we want to plug, but I'm going to push that to the end of the show because I think it's time that we introduce our audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Guests that we have this week. We have AuBrey Friesner, the lead singer of Poor Man's High, with us, but we also have the host of Canada This Week, Clare Blackwood, with us, and I would like to bring her on screen right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Clare Blackwood.
Hello.
Hello, Clare. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am fantastic. We are here. We are live, and I get to talk to you. So this is the highlight of my week right now.
Stop it.
So you have a talk show as well. This is my first time talking to another talk show host on my talk show.
Yeah. So Late Night in Canada is it's a weekly late night show essentially that I put out at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon. So there you go.
What is it with Canadian internet talk show hosts during the pandemic doing mid-afternoon drops?
Well, because no one's gonna watch it at like 1 a.m. on a Saturday night.
That's true. I'm just finishing the Wing show after SNL, and then I go to bed.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the algorithms do not like support that with any, I think, evidence whatsoever. So I just ask my audience to pretend. We're all actors.
Now I know for our show that we talk to a lot of indie artists from across the continent. I'm fortunate enough to have toured a fair bit, so I can have those connections. But you've done some interesting things. You've talked to like actual members of parliament on your show. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because that's someone that I haven't even tried to get someone like that.
I mean, I just kind of figured, why not? Like, I mean, I started the show just because Canada doesn't really have a political late night show. I think it used to with Mike Bullard or something like that. And so my goal was to essentially just do what people like Colbert do, but with, a little less money, just a little. And so my goal doing this was to talk to politicians, was to talk to activists, was to talk to entertainers, was to, to reach up, and the sky's the limit. And a lot of these people want to talk. I mean, of course, politicians want to talk, but people have been very receptive so far.
What is something that you've learned about the world by doing the talk show that you didn't necessarily know before?
Ooh, with my 3 episodes so far.
With your 3 episodes, I'm sure it's a life-changing experience. Why don't you?
Yeah, I think it's just how many people are actively working to better society that you probably don't know about unless you are benefiting from them. You know what I mean? Like so many foods, especially in Toronto. I focus a lot on Toronto because that's where most of my audience is right now. But so many like food kitchens, so many people who are going door to door to help people out, especially during the pandemic. Like the undercurrents of our society are working like so hard to, with very limited resources, to keep things moving when other people can't. And I think that's really awesome.
That is definitely an awesome takeaway. It's great that you get to talk to those people and expose them to more people, because then we all learn about the charities that we should be giving money to. We all learn about the people that we should be supporting. We've tried to name drop some of the charities that we support on the show here. Of course, what is there a charity that you would like to name drop right now? If you're,
oh goodness,
I know for me, I've talked about Food Share Toronto before, or an activist that you would like to mention right now that you've spoken to.
I mean, well, this coming week, actually, so on Monday show, I talked to the folks in charge of Reach Out Response Network, which is basically, it's an organization that is fighting to essentially down the road, and they're getting this started, replace police calls with mental health professionals for mental health crises. So if somebody is having a mental health crisis in Toronto, instead of calling the police on them, which obviously leads quite often to violence, especially in racialized communities, you would call a mental health professional who would come in instead. So they are trying to implement that in Toronto, which I think is really cool.
That is actually quite fantastic. I really support those initiatives. I know they've been politicized in a negative way, but it's so important that people realize that when you call for help, that there's many different ways that people can come and respond to that call, and that you're still getting help if it's a mental health professional. And they might be a better fit for the situation. And I totally think that's a wonderful thing that to expose to people, and the people who are doing that work. So I'm sure they have a lot of concrete things to say about it too.
They really do. And they have, like, you know, if you have an argument against it, they have a reason why you're wrong, you know, in I think a way that's really great, because people love to throw like, oh, what happens if people get violent? What happens if blah, 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 like you're trying to get rid of the police, and and they have all of the stats essentially, which is really great, because these kind of programs have existed in other countries for a while. So, I mean, Tory signed off on it. They're working to do town halls and trying to figure out how it's going to be implemented in the next couple of years.
Oh, wow, that's good. I like that. Couple of years, and we're going to have some better responses.
Yes.
We do talk about stuff that happens in other places, and I always find it fascinating that, like, places like Finland or in the Scandinavia, that the police are treated at the level of professionalism that they have to have an undergrad before they're allowed to go to police academy. And
what?
Yeah.
Shocking.
They actually have to, and a legally related undergrad, so they actually know stuff about the law. Where in Canada, they're given a lot of security training, but you need a high school diploma, and then you go to the police academy.
Yeah, for like approximately 5 seconds, and then they're like, here's your gun and badge, sir. Please, try not to kill someone. Yeah, it's the different levels of training is astounding. And if you really look into what you do or do not have to know to become a police officer, it's I mean, everyone knows already. Like, it's been so publicized, and rightly so. It's alarming.
It has been alarming. No, that's fine. What other guests have you had on the show that have been exciting for you?
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, last week I had a friend of mine, actually, Marlene Benavides, who's a nurse in Toronto. She became a nurse essentially just as the pandemic was hitting Toronto, so it was interesting to talk to her. I've talked to a woman named Han, who's like, she was a Filipina Canadian rapper and cardiac operating room nurse, which was really cool. I've talked to my MPP, Dr. Jill Andrew, who is literally like the raddest person alive. And I don't
She's
know
my MP too. I'm so excited that you talked to her.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you do live across the street from me, so I can probably like wave at you through my window. Yeah, so she was super cool, and I basically just got to be like, ask her like a 3-word question, and she'd talk forever, and I just got to kind of wow, and like sit back, and it was great. So, and I'm gonna have lots of awesome people in future, and I have people lined up and actors and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a really interesting process so far.
Now, when people want to watch the show, it comes out at 1 p.m. on Monday afternoons, but I'm sure you can watch it at any time after that, because it is a YouTube show.
Yes, it's just all on my personal YouTube channel.
It's not so people just type in Clare Blackwood on YouTube and they're gonna find you.
Sure do. Each episode is like, 35-ish minutes, and I yell at Doug Ford a lot, and I make jokes about what happens during the week, and then I talk to some really cool people, and then that's it. It's fairly simple.
I haven't yelled about Doug Ford enough on this show. Fuck,
Well,
I give history lessons about Anita Bryant, but Doug Ford, that's someone
Any amount of yelling at Doug Ford is not enough yelling at Doug Ford.
Do you want to yell at Doug Ford with me just for like 1 second? Just like fuck Doug Ford. Like we'll do like a 10-second just yell at Doug Ford.
Oh, sure. God.
Okay,
Yes,
so I'm gonna count down. 3, 2, 1. Yell at Doug Ford. Oh my God, you fucking monster! Why don't you learn how to deal with the
middle fingers for you
properly?
asshole. Yeah.
Okay, that felt good.
Yeah.
Okay,
my rage is internal. Your rage is external, and I really appreciate that.
I have some things to rage against, but despite all of my rage, I am still just a rat in a pandemically confined space. So Clare, we're gonna go and talk to our next guest right now, but it's so exciting to get to talk to you, and you have a lot to say. Would you like to stick around and do the news with us?
No, I don't like the news.
Oh, darn, that's too bad. I thought you were a news person, so I thought we'd have you back.
I just, it's not really.
Oh gosh, this has gone horribly awry. This is the crux of the show. That's our next half hour.
Yeah, I mean, if you were like talking about the Kardashians or something like that, then I'd be in. But I mean,
there's some soft. You know what? We might be able to surprise you. If we surprise you, will you stick around for the news?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so stick around. You'll come back for the news. And now I would like to show everyone AuBrey Friesner's Poor Man's High, and a beautiful, wonderful song by this band.
One, two.
Open your eyes. Folks are rolling around with their heads in the clouds. Oh, it's time to get with it. From what I see, the world is burning around me. Oh, it's time to get with it. How can they say that there's no climate change? Oh, it's time to get with it. If you wake up now, then you might start to see, oh, it's time. Open your eyes and get with it.
Okay, everyone. AuBrey Friesner. AuBrey, how are you doing?
Awesome. How are you doing? Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. That was great.
Thank you.
And you do that with a band called Poor Man's High, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Fantastic. And I know that I have seen that band before because you have performed at the Queen West Art Crawl. And you also perform other places too. Where all have you performed? Like how far from Toronto have you gotten with the band?
Well, it's funny. Poor Man's High has been around now for, it's hard to believe, about 7 or 8 years in different incarnations. We've played primarily in Toronto or in and around Toronto. And the band's grown, from 7 up to 12. And we've played, places like the Horseshoe. We were one of the last bands to play the Silver Dollar. We played Lee's. We played, festivals and whatnot. So we're around.
Fantastic. I mean, I love all of those venues. I've also performed at the Silver Dollar before. I haven't done Horseshoe yet. I'm jealous of you. I'm like, oh, Horseshoe. Then again, I'm not a musician, so the fact that I even got to play the Silver Dollar is kind of ridiculous. I love anything with a horn in it, and your band has a lot of horns. What's the inspiration for your band? What brought you all together?
To be honest with you, a daycare. You're probably saying, what? So our drummer, Sonny, his wife used to run a daycare. And when my son was born 10 years ago, we looked around for a bunch of big daycares, and then we found this small in-home one. And we joined them. It was a small place, and we are all still friends 10 years on. So through birthday parties and early celebrations when the kids are 2 and 3 and 4, it's kind of, it's not exactly the most exciting thing. So you start talking about other stuff. And Sonny turned out to be a Beatles fan, and I'm a Beatles fan from years gone by. And we started, one thing led to the other, and then the band formed. And now we've got our recordings. We got lots of bookings, typically when it's non-COVID and so on. So it's been a good run.
Now, how can people support you during COVID?
Well, at this time, there's not a whole lot that people can do. To be honest with you, we're struggling ourselves to try to figure out how to stay, and not just creative, but to stay together.
But you said you had an album or recording out there. Is there a place online they can find you? For sure, yeah. We're on all the usual digital outlets. So, Spotify, YouTube Music, on and on and on. Like you just look around for us. You can go to Poor Man's High, www.poormanshigh.com, and you can link up to our EP there. It's a 5-track EP of all original materials. It was recorded, produced by a fellow named Snappy Homefry, who's a fantastic bassist. And wait, his name is Snappy Homefry?
He goes by Snappy Homefry. He officially
just like that is a great
yeah, well, Snappy's not around Toronto. He's a fantastic bass player himself, and he's got one of the most sophisticated studios, home recording studio. Now it's professional, but it's just a very large living studio.
I've never like when I was a burlesque dancer, I didn't even take that advantage to give myself a cool like nom de plume. Like I went as Bob the drag, like which later a different Bob the drag queen is a better Bob than I was Bob the burlesque dancer. But it was I've never properly given myself a cool name when I've had the opportunity. I'm jealous of Snappy Home Fry now. You've made me super jealous of this.
Look him up. He's an amazing bassist. He's played in all kinds of bands. He's got a number of productions, and he just started up a new studio as well. So you can look him up, Snappy Home Fry.
Snappy Home, that's amazing. And yeah, I love your sound. I love how you fill the room. Horns fill the room so much.
Thank you.
And it's good family. Like I'm not surprised that it happened because of a daycare thing, because there is something all access about your music.
Yeah, and that's you gotta, we all have, well, most of us have kids. The band has changed over the years, so we got to a point where now we have some younger guys in the band who haven't had kids yet, but we all have a good sort of heart. So it's not like we ever go into the studio and we're angry at each other. We the songs are about positive things and about change and whatnot. So that song you just heard there was inspired by Greta Thunberg, and about the whole climate change. And listen to the kids. There's no blood yet in the streets, but there's a revolution coming, and it's going to come by way of the kids.
You warmed the cockles of my heart with like every sentence you said there. I just like, it's about kids, but everyone in the band has kids. Oh, that's about Greta Thunberg. That's about a soft revolution without blood. And I'm just like, this is everything you said just made me so happy. I mean, Kristin is also a parent, and when we've worked together, we've tried to incorporate the idea of parent as artist as a positive thing. Even though I'm a cat parent, so that's not the same thing whatsoever.
It's close, believe me. I've cleaned up after a cat. I spent 14 years with one.
My male cat tried to suck my nipples when he was a kitten.
Hey, my male son tried to suck my nipples, so there you go. It's the same sort of thing. See, you're a dad.
Oh my goodness.
Weird.
You're cracking me up. AuBrey, do you want to do the news segment with us today? Would you like to?
You know what? I love the news. I've become a news junkie during the pandemic. So absolutely, bring me in.
Well, why don't we bring Kristin and Clare back on so we can do the news segment with everybody, with their wonderful faces. Everyone, it is time for our favorite segment.
Hello, everyone. Right before we start, I'm just going to do a quick plug. I have an event tomorrow. I'm really excited. My album I made with Alex Eddington, who was a guest of ours in October, is now out. And we're having a virtual album launch tomorrow. Amazingly, bit.ly/album-launch has never been used in the past 20 years or so that bit.ly has been around. So that will take you right to the page for the virtual album launch. So please do that. And don't forget to buy a coffee for This Is a Talk Show. I meant to read out the names of people who gave us a coffee, because some people gave us coffee last week. Amazing. I forgot to write them down, though, so I will shout you guys all out next time. But all right, now it is time for This Is a News Segment. And as always,
This is a news segment.
This is a news segment. I keep forgetting to write theme music for that as well. Once again, this is a very serious news show, so we only talk about the most important, most vital, most pressing stories. So please be prepared for your minds to be blown and your lives expanded.
And the way that this works is that Kristin is going to put up a headline for us and read out the information about it. And then Clare, AuBrey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of you to start our conversation, and then we'll go round robin and just see how we all feel about the topic. And then when Kristin gets bored of whatever we're jabbering on about, she will stop us, she will shut us up and bring up the next news segment, and we will keep moving onward and forward until we are finished with this week's news.
That's right, Adam. So to begin with, a very, very serious story. Conservationists plead with the public to stop milking psychedelic toads. You know that thing where if you lick toads, it will make you high? This has been around for a while. I remember it being in an X-Files episode way back in the dark ages. But it's a problem because people keep messing with these toads, who are delicate creatures who don't want to be picked up and licked by random idiots. So please, PSA from all of us, stop licking toads.
Who are you calling an idiot? Come on.
Wait, AuBrey, are you saying that you've done something like this?
We call it Friday night. What are you talking about? We got to get out. I live near Hyde Park.
I don't think the toads of Hyde Park are psychedelic.
Claire, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I would say that this is one of those glorious moments where like I lose all of my faith in humanity that I've managed to like desperately claw back from various, conversations with nice people. Where like the very fact that we have to ask people not to lick amphibians is a thing that garners world news. But I'm sure that those people think that they're living their best lives. There are just better things to lick. Like there are things called hard drugs. Like why are you traumatizing these toads when you can just drop some acid? I mean, hi mom and dad. It just seems excessive. It just seems like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
And especially when they said milking the toads, I'm like, licking is one thing, but are they going in there and milking them?
I don't want to know the answer to that question because I don't want to picture the answer to that question. That's a lot. It's in my brain now.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. The official position of this as a talk show is to drop acid. Hard drugs are better than toad licking.
And toad licking.
Moving on to our next story. In other great ideas, an army of parasitic wasps has been deployed to battle moths inside a British stately home. So apparently, I mean, moths are a big problem. Have you ever had moths in your house, especially if you have valuable furniture and tapestries as a giant oversized symbol of domination probably does. So in an unusual idea, there's a species of wasp, which I believe they lay their eggs inside the moth eggs or something like that. I can't remember all of the details. So the idea is you put some wasps that are so small you can barely even see them, and they'll take care of the moth population.
It's funny because half of the world calls the British population parasitic wasps in the first place.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's what was really
Not many people know that, but this is actually the plot of the next Ant-Man movie.
Is it a Ant-Man Downtown Abbey crossover?
It's basically they read my dream journal and they were like, yes.
Tiny Paul Rudd and
Yeah.
tiny Judi Dench or something like that. I don't remember who's in. I've never seen Downton
Maggie
Abbey.
Smith.
Yeah. Maggie Smith, that's right.
Yeah.
Tiny Paul Rudd battles tiny Maggie Smith in Marvel's one and only What If Ant-Man Downton Abbey crossover. I'm sold. I'm there.
You heard it here first. I'm gonna get sued.
I will sign up for Disney Plus just to watch that.
AuBrey, would you have any thoughts on the parasitic wasp movement?
Well, I'd like to say yes, but I'm still stunned by the incredibly well-groomed lawn in that image.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was taken aback. Someday I hope to have that problem. To have a very large estate. It won't be by taking my money and stuffing it in my mattress, much to Kristin's advice, but I'm working on having that problem someday. Maybe this summer, I'll see.
Well, I have to say, I did have moths once, and those little sticky tents that you put in, you put in your closet, a little card with sticky that has some sticky stuff on it. It works. Also, just wash your clothes, guys. It's not like you don't. Parasitic wasps are, yeah.
I want to know what comes after the parasitic wasps, though. Like this is one of those, and then came this, and then came this, and then came the jackals. Like, I just want to know what their plan is for getting rid of the parasitic wasps.
Exactly. It's an old woman who swallowed a fly situation.
Yeah, that's the reference I was thinking about, but couldn't remember. I just,
I'm still thinking colonization. I'm back in the 1950s and 60s, and it happened in Africa. They're still trying to get rid of those parasitic wasps.
After the parasitic wasps come over, then you lose control of Africa. Like that's what happens.
And Asia, and on and on.
Asia, and then there's years of reconciliation and no one understanding why South Africans have a Dutch accent. It's just
it's weird.
Moving on, here's a story for our Science Discovers Water is Wet file. 50 years of tax cuts for the rich failed to trickle down, economic study says. In news which surprises no one, Reaganomics, trickle down economics, the idea that when you give rich people more money, this will somehow benefit everyone, doesn't work. As if we didn't all know that already.
Claire's face. This is the response right here. Claire's face. She's just like.
I thought about this one before, because trickle down. I mean, I've spent a lot of time looking at Reaganomics, And that's basically where the spirit of this kind of was born out of. And I'd like to try flipping things around. Try trickle-down economics by giving the poor people all the money,
Yes.
and see if that trickles down to the rich people. You know, maybe they'll
Yeah.
benefit even more if everybody at the lower ranks actually has something.
That's the other kind of study that gets done all the time. Did you know that if you give people money, they're not poor? Like, I swear, people study this as if it's like not obvious, right? It's like, oh, we gave some homeless people money. Suddenly they had apartments, you know? Right?
And all,
It's like, who knew?
and all the crime went away and things worked out. What the hell?
It's just, it's like the headline itself is just, it's like a nicer version of what this actually wants to say, which is just rich people want you to be poor. Like it's, they want people to stay poor because otherwise they wouldn't be rich and shiny and special. Like that's the whole crux of the issue.
I think it's deeper than that though. I think wealthy people are generally born into wealth, and so there's a cognitive dissonance of that they have to justify why they're in that situation, and so they have to be like, oh well, it's because I'm a job provider, I'm a better, I do like. I think there's that cognitive. I don't think it's an intent of wanting people to be poor, which is why they smack back against. Some do. Some.
I think it is.
They want someone trimming that nice lawn in that picture, like AuBrey mentioned, right? They need someone out there with the nail scissors, making that all perfect.
Well, that's the thing, and like
Yeah.
in that's why every single time, you know, Congress or whatever, like says like, let's give money to the poor, they're like, no, we can't do that. Well, we need tax cuts for the rich because we need a fourth yacht. Like, I mean, it's they actively fight so hard against giving poor people money with the flimsiest of justifications. Because if everybody's rich, then that's socialism and that's communism and that's bad.
Well, and puritanical Christianity. Let's not forget that if you help the poor people, then they wouldn't have helped themselves, and then how will they get into heaven? You're
Bootstrap,
saving
man.
poor.
Bootstrap.
I mean,
Well-
it's not like Jesus had a yacht, right? Like Jesus was. I want to see Jesus's yacht on the Sea of Galilee, and that because
He was a carpenter. He built a beautiful one.
He could have built a nice boat. That's true.
he
Well, here's-
he was
yeah.
a fisher and a carpenter. He could build a nice boat. That is okay. So
Well,
but it
here's
was
one way
never-
to get into heaven is get a really high score in Scrabble. Chatham woman stunned after scoring 365 points in a single word in Scrabble. And when Adam sent me this this story, I said, how did my mom wind up on the news?
Or my dad. I feel
Yeah,
that.
this is not my mom, but if she ever did score 365 points in Scrabble, she would alert the media. The word was quizzers. There's nothing else to the story. It's just lady scores high in Scrabble.
I mean, I'm jealous. As a Scrabble aficionado, I always
Yeah.
thought that the hardest word to spell was Ziziva, which is a tropical weevil, and it has like all of the Z's and Y's that exist in the Scrabble board, and it is my life goal to make this word above all else.
That's some good
Ziziva.
Scrabble. Ziziva.
Ziz-
How many? But there's one z in Scrabble. How do you make a ziziva? Anyway, that's a whole other story. We're all addicted
With
to
a blank.
Scrabble, clearly.
Yeah,
It's a blank.
like,
Oh, it's
Ah.
a blank.
Yeah. it's like ZYZZYVA or something like that.
I want to know more about this creature though, so AuBrey can write a song about it.
I'm already on it. I'm actually taking notes here.
I mean, it's not nice looking. It's a weevil, but it's a tropical weevil, which means that it is slightly fancy. You could
What's
probably
a
use it as
weevil?
a garnish for your pina colada.
What? Wait,
Put it in
what's
your,
a weevil?
A weevil's
I
like
thought that
a
was
no, it's like a bug. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the bug that there was a cotton boll weevil that actually
Yeah.
destroyed the cotton plants in the mid 50s, or actually in the 30s.
Yeah.
And then that resulted in the Great Depression. A lot of
Well, I
songs.
think
about
other
that.
stuff
Well,
was
don't
involved in the Great
blame
Depression.
the
It's
The
what-
ball weevil, I believe, was
Yeah.
a part of it. It was part of the dust bowl. Anyway, I think that's enough about weevils and Scrabble. So
I got
here's
so much
a-
on the boll weevil though. Give me a second.
There's
here.
so much about weevils. We need more weevil time. What are you talking about?
So I don't, if you're the sort of person who always loses your keys, here's an idea. Lil Uzi Vert, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Lil Uzi Vert, I don't know if he's French, embedded a $24 million diamond into his forehead so he wouldn't lose it. And my first reaction was that someone has been watching WandaVision, but I mean, I guess that's a great way not to lose something. Just get it surgically implanted right here.
I mean, I don't want to judge this man's choices. If he has the money to implant a gemstone in his forehead, then he is well within his rights to do so. However, I would argue that is the easiest way to lose something and the most painful way to lose something. Like, it's just right there. Like, all it takes is for somebody to just hold you down for 2 seconds and kind of go, thank you, and bye. Like, I mean, like, you hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Is it like
But-
literally screwed into his forehead though? Like, is there like some kind of like hardware involved, or else is it just sort of like suspended? Did they just make a hole? I don't know. I didn't want to look up any pictures because it's a little gross.
We should ask him.
Yeah, we should
That's
have him
really-
on the show.
He's our next guest. He's our next guest.
What is his name? Was it like a Little Uzi? What was
Little Uzi Vert. Yeah.
Never heard
Even
of it.
Americans say Ver, Kristin. What are you? It's Vermont, not Vermont.
Vermont doesn't mean anything. It means Worm Mountain
it's
in
Green
French.
Mountain. It's
No,
Vermont.
it doesn't. If you want to say Green Mountain in French, you say La Montagne Verte. You don't say Vermont. If that means anything, that means Worm Mountain.
But
It
it's
doesn't mean
American
meaningless.
bad French. You've heard me talk about Fort Detroit and how it's Detroit now, and like just like how that. Come
That's
on,
true.
come on.
That's
It's American version of French. You can say Ver.
Well, we have moving on a couple of, I want to have a good amount of time for this. We have a good roundup of stories of unwise beauty secrets. First of all, we all know about the lady who used Gorilla Glue, spray glue instead of hairspray, giving herself a permanent hairdo. And we all made fun of John Kay for accidentally using dog shampoo and then complaining about it, making it someone else's fault. And this unfortunate woman made a home face mask with turmeric, which I think we could have all told her how this was going to turn out because it dyed her skin yellow.
I tried that
Mean
once.
how it was turmeric out? Sorry. I'm sorry.
No. What were you saying? What were you saying? I want to hear what you're saying.
It was a pun.
Okay.
It was a really bad pun, and I have to get one in every show, so I apologize.
I did want to update that the Tessa Brown, who was the Gorilla Glue unfortunate person, she has very fortunately had surgery in order to remove her Gorilla Glue from her hair, and they saved her hair. So that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, I believe the turmeric face mask. I have accidentally dyed my skin, not my entire face. I got turmeric on my hand and accidentally dyed a bit of it. It will fade over time, but that would be pretty embarrassing to walk around like that until it does. And John
Yeah.
Kay's still useless. So, and he wishes his hair was as good as the dog on the label of that shampoo.
Yeah, essentially that was going to be my comment about Jonathan Kay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's social media is a plague, right? Where like we've all done stupid shit like this forever, and now we just find out about it more easily and get to make fun of these poor questionable people who do questionable things.
I actually dyed my hair green once when I was in my early 20s. I mixed some hair dye unwisely, and unfortunately, TikTok wasn't around.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a humanity though that if you do something silly, you can get laughed at, and I think there's a fairness to that. And I think that pan of people shows us that it covers a swath of people. It's not like one or two people make silly choices. Lots of people make silly choices with.
I work on
and
that every
it's
day.
okay. But the John Kay one where like that's sort of like a really white privilegey thing to do. It's like I can't like no one else was like this is someone else's fault. Turmeric face, which was like should have read up more on turmeric. Like the person was like please just don't make fun of me that much. Like Diamond Guy was like I'm rich, and then you hit dog shampoo dude, and he's like it's cancel culture's fault. I'm a white man, so I can't have made this mistake on my own.
Okay, to be fair, he didn't blame cancel culture. That was a headline from the Beaverton, but he did go on Twitter and say, how can they not have written the word dog larger on the bottle? And it's like, dude, there is a picture of a golden retriever that's that big. It's like, if you can't figure it out, that's no one else's problem.
The only one who couldn't take the joke about himself was the white dude who was like, I'm a middle-class white dude with lots of money. Clearly, it's not my fault when I make poor decisions. Like, no. You washed your hair with dog shampoo. It made it into the media.
In his defense, how do you think I got this, dude? Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. There are some upsides to dog shampoo. Anyway, that's a whole other story. And turmeric, this permatan turmeric, I gotta tell you.
I'm a human being who is terrified of wasps and bees, who will run, who will scream, who will make a fancy like it contain yourself, boy. I have done the mohawk with like sugar and egg kind of look. The punk, and not realizing that would attract insects to my head. So
yeah.
I spent a day in Kensington Market being chased by bees and hating it. And you want to know something? That's my fault. That's
your
on
fault.
me.
Yeah.
I did it. It's my
But-
fault.
Was that
Yeah.
on or off acid? Did you take Claire's advice? I don't know.
No,
Were you licking a
licked the
toad? Exactly.
If any toad lickers laughed at me that day, it was my fault, and I am glad to have given them the humor. It is not the egg industrial complex's fault for not telling me not to mix egg
Adam, we
whites.
enjoyed watching you run around Kensington. It was great. Don't worry about it.
Well, we're getting short of time, so let's skip ahead a little bit. This is really the last story that I want to get the panel's opinion on because it makes me so angry. Dogs might detect COVID better than current tests review suggests, and all I want to know is why have I had a needle inserted into my brain 3 times now instead of just like being sniffed by a dog? If this is better, why is it not the gold standard? Like, why is just the dog park not the COVID testing center? I have a dog. She loves to sniff things. I volunteer her as she would happily sniff you. And if that will somehow detect your COVID, please come on over.
I mean, my rebuttal to this is that, like, I think we've all seen how many people don't accept actual science. Like science, people saying you need to do these absolutely basic things because of scientific facts that we're all aware of. We can't even get people to do that. And so I don't think we're going to get any more people believing that a dog sniffing, I mean, like, I don't want to go down that road, frankly, because people are just going to be like, oh, well, my dog sniffed me and it's fine. So I'm cool to just do whatever. Like there's
that dog was smelling that guy's crotch.
Yeah,
So
I also like that part of that photo.
I can get down with that because right now I'll take anything. It's been COVID, right? It's been kind of the last little while.
And I think the thing is that dogs don't fill reports, and there's a bureaucracy with this. Like,
correct.
There is, I suppose, a level of interpretation where you have to like get the sign from the dog, and I'm sure there are not enough trained COVID sniffing dogs in order to do this. I mean, it doesn't work very well, but just imagine the world where we could have, if we did have a whole like dog medical corps. Like, did you know in some airports they have like a team of beagles that go around and sniff the luggage for contraband food? And I'm like, how cute is that?
I mean, I would put contraband food in my bag just so I could
just to get the beagles. I know, exactly. Yeah, why can't we have like, you're this is the medical facility. There's a doctor, there's a nurse, there's a receptionist, and then there's like a poodle,
The poodle will be conducting your nasal swab.
it looks like a cotton swab and replacing a cotton swab. It's great. Do we have our high note to end on this week, Kristin?
Yes, we do. And this is a great learning opportunity for all of us who do news media. 8-year-old calls out NPR for lack of dinosaur stories. So this young person, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl off the top of my head. I think it was a boy. Wrote a letter into the NPR show that they were forced to listen to while being driven to school and said, "Why don't you do more stories on dinosaurs? I would love to hear some stories on dinosaurs." And the show was like, you know what? You're right. So let's make that a new policy, Adam. At least one dinosaur story per show.
I can't wait to tune into This American Life and hear this week on This American Life. Chapter 1, Triceratops. Chapter 2, Pterodactyl. Chapter 3, T-Rex. I do want this to happen, and we should do more dinosaur stories.
Yeah.
Do you have any dinosaur stories, AuBrey, Claire?
I mean, I recently wrote a comedy article about dinosaur erotica, but did you not know that was a thing? Oh, that's a thing. Oh,
That's
buddy.
the thing.
So, it's a whole genre of erotic fiction. Essentially, I think it's called dino porn. Anyway, hi, Mom and Dad. It's like,
I just hear
you look it
plates
up.
like knocking against each other, just.
Is it dino on dino, or is it like...
I know one person, right?
No,
Yeah.
So like, if you look this up, I mean, obviously there's a lot of like fanfic kind of stuff, especially in terms of, I know this for very specific reasons, please don't judge me. But like, if you go on Amazon, there's like 1 or 2 people who write and publish things like ravished by the raptor, taken by the T-Rex, like all of this kind of stuff that is out there. You can buy it. I'm just kind of like, you know what, you do you. If that's your thing, great. Yep. I think it's phenomenal. I think this is where humanity is truly destined to go.
So is this the case where the 8-year-old gets what he wants, but it
No.
traumatizes him? Like, there's not enough dinosaur stories on
NPR is
NPR.
like, you want fucking dinosaurs, kid? All right, here's some fucking dinosaurs. Like,
Here's some dinosaurs, fucking.
yeah, no,
Literally fucking dinosaurs.
literally fucking dinosaurs.
I've got
Oh
this
my
little-
goodness. I think
Go
that's all
off
the
the
time that
rafters.
we have for the news. Thank you everyone for taking part in that. That was fantastic.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Before
for
we go,
having us.
AuBrey, let everyone know how they can find your stuff online.
www.poormanshigh.com. All the info's there. It's Poor Man's High.
Fantastic. And Claire,
Thank you.
where can people watch your show?
You can look my name up or Late Night in Canada up on YouTube.
Fantastic. And I know that next week we have, not next week because we're every other week, but when we come back, we're going to have two great people on the show. We have Neil Sequin, who is a comic who's appeared on the CBC before, and he has a book that's just come out. We also have KK Apple from the New York Assembly of the Upright Citizens Brigade coming and joining us. She is fantastic. And that's what we have coming up next. Of course, we always ask if you can like us, subscribe down below, because that helps with our algorithm. We also have obviously a record coming out tomorrow that Kristin is involved in. So Kristin, why don't you pitch that?
Yeah, for sure. Please join us tomorrow. Oops, also buy us a coffee, ko-fi.com/thisisatalkshow. Yeah, join us tomorrow. It's going to be on Facebook Live, so go to bit.ly/album/launch and RSVP yes, and then join us tomorrow at 2:45 for some chit chat and music videos and so on.
Fantastic. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Kristin, for starting and ending all of our shows. I can't wait to hear what you sing us out with today. And until then, see you all soon.
You guys are awesome.
Goodbye,
Thanks for
everybody.
having us.
Thanks
Thanks for doing what you
so
do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let me just get all my things organized here. And got the keyboard turned on. Very good. So, keeping on the theme of problematic stuff, I have another great song for you to close. All right. Oops, something's not turned on. It's my amp. There we go. That'll work better. Looking out across the nighttime, the city winks a sleepless eye. Hear her voice shake my window, sweet seducing sighs. Get me out into the nighttime, for walls won't hold me tonight. If this town is just an apple, then let me take a bite. If they ask you why, just tell them that it's human nature. Why does he do me that way? Why, just tell him that it's human nature. Why does he do me that way? see you guys all next time. It's just human nature, isn't it? Bye for now.